devices. The UN ambassador to the DRC made it clear that if international soldiers cannot help protect civilians, then they should get out altogether.
If your council believes that MONUSCO cannot help us in this area, then its presence would be totally useless, and you would then have to draw the appropriate consequences, clearly, to withdraw it, and let us deal with our own demons.
The UN took its first steps into peacekeeping into the DRC in 1960 in response to post-independence instability. Troops withdrew 4 years later. They returned in 1999 to again help stabilise the country, which had been racked by civil war in the wake of the Rwandan genocide. Despite a current budget of $1.3 billion a year, this latest incident has once again called into question the effectiveness of the UN's presence in the DRC.
I feel personally guilty to the people who have suffered this brutalization, and I trust that we, all of us, will indeed do better.
While the appalling mass rape appears to have jolted the United Nations into action, it's far from an isolated atrocity. In Tuesday's session, the Assistant Secretary-General outlined another 167 individual cases of sexual violence or rape in the DRC in the past 2 months alone. Overwhelming proof that any meaningful solutions are still a long way off. Kath Turner, Al Jazeera at the United Nations, New York.
Marcel Stoessel is the country director for Oxfam in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Earlier, I spoke with him from Kinshasa and asked him whether the report suggested that things were getting worse in the DRC or whether it was simply that incidents of mass rape were finally being reported.
There are about 15,000 reported rapes every year, and I don't think, this is anything much out of the ordinary when you look at the individual victim that is affected. We see this every day. Now, the MONUSCO capacity has certainly not been helped by the fact that the Security Council has voted to reduce MONUSCO by 2,000 troops, because these troops are going to be missing somewhere. So one cannot have it both ways. As long as the Congolese army is not comprehensively reformed, as long as the perpetrator of these outrageous atrocities are not being brought to justice, MONUSCO remains the best hope for the civilian population in Congo.
But still, it's only one aspect of any solution to bring stability to the Congo. Is there not a problem, though, in relying too heavily on a military force from the UN when there should be other options explored on the diplomatic side, on negotiating with non-genocidal rebels, on looking at the mineral industry, on trying to make the Congo a stable state where its citizens are protected overall?
Absolutely, and that is what communities are telling us. We are regularly conducting surveys amongst Congolese civilians, and that's precisely what they have been telling us. 75% of the Congolese civilians in North and South Kivu have been telling us we don't want a military solution to this problem. There can be no successful military solution, because we're talking about a Congolese army that is by itself a collection of former militia groups, which has many undisciplined elements in there, and there are many human rights abusers within the Congolese army, and of course so are there on the other side. So this is just these two sides fighting each other. That will not work, and I think in the history of mankind it has not been frequently reported that a guerrilla war has been brought to a decisive victory, and I would think that the Congolese army in the present state and MONUSCO also with its strengths but with its many weaknesses also, that the military path alone cannot have success. That is what military experts are saying.
Don't you suspect, frankly, though, that the international community feels that this is too big an issue, it's too intractable? 6 million killed since, what, the late 90s or so. Plus, they seem to have picked their figures in Africa, Paul Kagame and Mr. Kabila. They don't necessarily want to rock the boat. It's just too much trouble.
Obviously, there must be some fatigue of this intractable or seemingly intractable conflict, but I would consider myself or my organization Oxfam also as part of the international community, and I can tell you we are not tired. We are not getting tired of this conflict, because every day 14-year-old girls are being raped in the most brutal way, and it's never going into the mass media, it's not going into those reports to the Security Council. It's a scandal that we are living every day. We are tired of the conflict, but we are not tired of being here and bearing witness to these atrocities and to the situation that ordinary people have to go through. We can simply let those people down.
The view from Oxfam. In a related incident about UN peacekeeping, UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has flown to Rwanda